Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. My guest this evening is Mr. Nuwan Bopage of the Attorney at Law, representing the Frontline Socialist Party. Very good evening to you, Mr. Bopage.
Good evening.
How are your troubles? How are your cases going?
Actually, it's going well.
Going well in your favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Not to my favor, actually. It's
In
favors
favor of the
always
law?
justice.
Okay. but it's easier than before?
No, in fact, as lawyers, we are doing our duty. We are actually presenting our cases before judges. So we believe the independence of judiciary is very important. This is the only forum that people have to go there and present their cases against any sort of oppressive actions from the government.
Yeah.
So independence of judiciary is very important. We have a fight for that, for the sake of independence of judiciary as well.
Okay. Let's get straight to the thrust, really. Everywhere I go in Sri Lanka, people are talking about elections. They want elections, although they know that elections are not going to solve the immediate currency problem and the devastation, the havoc caused by the poor decision-making of Gotabaya Rajapaksa in terms of the fertilizer issue and agriculture. Despite all that, people are saying, out on the streets, they're saying they want elections. But we have a government that appears to be not so keen.
Yes.
What's your take on that as the Frontline Socialist Party?
Actually, the very foundation of Sri Lankan Constitution, when you go to the preamble of the Constitution, it says this is a country with representative democracy. Then it is in conjunction with the other articles, Article 3, 4, 5, it says people are exercising their democracy through elections, through franchise. So I never say always this election reflects the democracy, because we know as to how the Rajapaksas and others manipulated mindset of the people prior to the election. But at least people should have that right to vote. So what these Ranil Wickremesinghe is now doing, actually his intention is very clear. He doesn't want to see the mandate of the people. For that, actually, he's postponing the elections. So the mockery is now actually during the Aragalaya, people exercise their democratic rights through direct democracy. So that is one mode of democracy. In our constitution, there is provisions for referendum. Referendum is one mode of direct democracy. But these Aragalaya paved the way for new mode of democracy, that people exercise their democratic powers directly. So I think these people are on one side scared to that democratic path. On the other hand, now what is the main allegation against the Aragalaya on the side of Ranil Wickremesinghe? He is saying it is against the constitutional norms, that is against the democracy, that is not a mode of exercising democracy. The same person now postponing the election with the ulterior motive of not to test the mandate of the people. So then, very fundamental basis of our constitution is representative democracy. If he want to postpone that election, then it is a clear-cut violation of the constitution. So I believe we have to turn this particular move of the government. Actually, we have to defeat that. Somehow people should get election through another Aragalaya, I believe.
The Centre for Policy Alternatives today got leave to proceed.
Yes.
Do you welcome that decision?
Yeah, of course, as I heard in newspapers, actually it's a good move. The main substantial relief sought by petitioners is to this postponing the election is violation Article 10, 11, and actually 14 of the Constitution, freedom of expression, etc. So leave has been granted. So prior to that, I think there was another case filed by a political party. In that case, actually, interim orders have been given by the court directing Treasury to release this money for the election. So I think the judiciary, as far as judiciary is concerned, actually they realize how important the democratic rights of the people. So actually these orders on the side of the democracy of the country very healthy and very progressive decisions.
The Supreme Court decision was that the Treasury Secretary was precluded from withholding funds that had already been allocated in the budget and passed in the budget.
Exactly. In the annual budget, I think 10 billion rupees allocated for election commission.
Yeah.
So they have to utilize this money for elections.
But can I ask you this in that case, Mr. Bopage? There are several items in budgets that are proposed and passed, but those are like almost like wish lists because nothing really happens. So you don't find contractors, for example, who may be the beneficiaries of, for example, let's say they pass a budget to build 5 billion rupees worth of roads. But when push comes to shove, it doesn't actually happen. But it's been passed in the budget. So you don't find potential contractors approaching the Supreme Court saying, well, you know, that's passed in the budget, so they must release the money.
Exactly.
So how does you work that? Because it doesn't always happen.
Unlike the commercial contracts, actually this is directly connected to the democratic rights of the people.
Right.
So on the other hand, we know as to how these government wasting money for Independence Day and various other functions. First of all, we should understand the law now, according to law, before 19th of March, there must be an election for these Pradesh Sabha and urban councils.
Yeah.
So it is very clear. So therefore, the holding election is the fundamental thing as far as a democratic country is concerned. So therefore, the government can't say they don't have money, they can't allocate money. When you go through the statement made by Ranil Wickremesinghe in the parliament, what he said? He said they don't have money to allocate money, there's no election. How he can say that now election commission declared the day of the election? His own political party submitted nomination. Then most political parties started their campaign. So in a situation like that, it is the duty of the treasury and government to somehow allocate this money and hold this election.
Putting it straight to the point, are you saying that the President of Sri Lanka is misleading the public?
Of course, not only misleading, actually sometimes I feel that whether he is insane, because or otherwise he is a joker. Because before the parliament, how could he make that statement saying that there is no election once the Independent Election Commission has declared the election? So he's the president of the country.
Do you then detect a growing authoritarianism in Mr. Wickremesinghe's actions?
Of course, of course. Now, first of all, the postponing election itself substantiate that fact. The second thing is as to how he is mobilizing troops, as to how he violate fundamental rights of the people, as to how he is going to curb the public protest. So these all, when we take all these into consideration, it is very clear now it's going to be a certain kind of dictatorship, authoritarian state. So somehow the people have to defeat this because it's not a, it's an allowing thing.
How is that somehow?
Somehow means now actually...
Do you want people, are you suggesting that people start protesting again?
Of course, that is when we think about the history of the whole world, it is that sacred right of the people. When you go to the French Revolution, their declaration, the fighting for their right is a sacred right because these states belong to people. So all the laws and all the judgments and all the previous declarations, all these were introduced to protect that people's right to express their ideas. The mode may be different.
Right.
So if the state is going to be authoritarian or dictatorship, people have that sacred right to fight against that.
And how do I, on the same sort of lines, there's a lot of speculation and thought that the Inter-University Students' Federation is driven by the Frontline Socialist Party. How do you respond?
I think on several occasions, I think party members addressed and answered this.
Yeah.
Actually, Inter-University Student Federation is representative of the student wing of the country. So they have their own political agenda. They have their own slogans. So it's just like this. Whoever in line with the agenda and the slogans of the IUSF, Inter-University Student Federation, could do politics with that. I think FSP always standing in the side of protection of the free education, public education. That is the same line of Inter-University Student Federation. Therefore, always there is a close connection in the ground politics. Other than that, my understanding is and my experience is various political students belong to various political parties, various movements are working with IUSF. It's an independent body.
And so there is no real link, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, because link means now when the political ideology is very close with two movements, actually the simple appearance might be they are working together.
Yeah.
Of course, as far as the educational rights, then free education is concerned, we are working with Inter-University Student Federation.
Okay. How does the Frontline Socialist Party, what is your view on what some people term that when a couple of members of parliament started sort of criticizing, almost criticizing, the call of some of these people was that they were undermining, those members of parliament were undermining the judiciary by making those statements when in fact the judiciary acts separately as another organ of state. So what's your take on that?
Actually, I don't believe that statement of that member of parliament is a isolated incident. Actually, it is part and parcel with the line of Ranil Wickremesinghe government, because initially Ranil Wickremesinghe blamed to HRC, Human Rights Commission, inside the parliament. Then actually he directly interfered with the independent commissions such as Election Commission. Going further, actually through AG's department, I was there during the court case of Wasantha Mudalige. Actually, they open court, they blamed the judges. So then now the Ranil Wickremesinghe government believe these kind of progressive decisions are not favorable to them. Then somehow they have to interfere with the independent judiciary and shut down the procedure of dispensing justice. Therefore, they are using these henchmen now trying to give message to the judiciary in the guise of parliament privilege. So we have to condemn this because we have that same experience. Now once the brave decisions were given regarding the Vinaguma Act, we know what happened to former Chief Justice. Now I think they have decided to go follow the same path. Now they are trying to interfere with the judiciary. So on one hand I am thinking if there must be a right, some sort of right to criticize decisions, because now these courts are belonging to people. If there are certain wrong acts or ex facie wrong decisions, there must be some sort of right people to criticize and people to talk about that. But this is not that thing. This is under the guise of parliament privileges. They are threatening to the judiciary. So actually this trend we have to defeat.
Thank you. Please send us your questions, 0772 300 305. We are in conversation with Mr. Nuwan Bopage from an attorney at law representing the Frontline Socialist Party. We might be going for a break now, actually. We've got to come back, and after the break we'll discuss the independence of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and what the Frontline Socialist Party's take is on that. And we'll also discuss the benefits of having niche small parties within this mainstream democratic structure. It's now time to take a peek at the headlines from the Primetime News team. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
Public should not unnecessarily panic over listeria infection, says health officials. Professionals meet President's secretary again, meeting with President Wickremesinghe next week.
ඉතින් ඒක අපි සාධනීය දෙයක් විදිහට දකිනවා. අද ජනාධිපති ලේකම්තුමාගේ පැත්තෙන් ධනාත්මක ප්‍රතිචාර ලැබුණා.
Jatika Janabalavagia goes to court against a new Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill. No positions under Ranil Wickremesinghe's presidency, says Namal.
මම පැහැදිලිව ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා මේ රටේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා බවට පත් කරනකොට ඒ ආණ්ඩුව තුල තනතුරක් දරන්න මම සූදානම් නැහැ කියලා.
No request from any state body to close accounts with People's Bank.
23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Nuwan Bopage, attorney at law from the Frontline Socialist Party. Mr. Bopage, what's the Frontline Socialist Party's take on this attempt to make the Central Bank of Sri Lanka more independent? Is it a good thing, bad thing, suspicious?
Actually, what we have to think about, what is the actual intention behind this? What is the ulterior motive behind this? Now, actually, who interfered with the independence of the central bank? Now, who is the main brain behind the bond scam? This is Ranil Wickremesinghe. Then subsequently, who appointed...
You're saying that with your responsibility.
Of course. Then, not only me, who's behind him now, 134 voted inside the parliament. During the last election, they only blame that, not only me. Then, we know who appointed Cabral as the governor.
Yeah.
Then, he's the main culprit behind the most of the decision that detriment to the people. So, it is very clear. Now, these politicians only interfered with the independence of the central bank. Now, this is not actually move to give independence to the central bank. This is a decision guideline given by the IMF. So IMF gave certain guidelines regarding imposing taxes and bring this particular act to have a so-called independence to central bank. So actually they are implementing the decisions of the IMF. Actually the motive is not to create the independent central bank, just to create a pro-IMF central bank. Then through the central bank they are going to implement all the IMF rules and their proposals to the central bank. So that will be very, very detrimental as far as the people are concerned, because privatization is coming. There are the privatization of education, health, and actually profit-based, money-oriented economy, the upliftment of neoliberal economy against the actually public welfare. So all these conditions will come in the future. In order to implement that, they need pro-IMF central bank. So ulterior motive behind this particular act is that.
And don't you think that having an independent central bank, independent of the political tinkering, is better?
Yeah, actually now, for example, from 17th Amendment, independent election commission was established.
Yeah.
Now what is the current situation?
Yeah.
Is it independence? No. These politicians somehow interfering with that. So merely because you bring a law, you cannot bring the independence. That is the attitude of the politician. That depends on the motive of the politician. So as far as the Ranil Wickremesinghe and this government is concerned, their main objective is to somehow preserve the power. In order to preserve power, they have to obtain more loans, and they have to once again bring this debt trapped. So therefore they are doing that. In order to do that, they are doing certain reforms that are not under any circumstances people's healthy and pro people.
Okay, let's move on. What about this business that, obviously the FSP is a small party. How important are small parties, or should they be disbanded, and should the people like you be asked to join one of the mainstream bigger parties?
Actually, parties cannot be categorized small or big.
Okay.
So what is their political ideology?
Yeah.
Now, as far as, for example, now Gotabaya Rajapaksa during that election, actually he got lot of votes.
Yeah.
Majority votes. But at the same time, we know all the decisions that he has taken, as you earlier said, fertilizer policy and other policies actually totally against the public. So as far as these policies are concerned, parties like us and other certain parties, actually we took the firm stand and we stood with the people. So we are always representing the oppressed of this society, and we are representing whoever the minority groups of the races who are actually oppressed due to this system. So we are representing them. When you are representing them, actually that might not be the majority view. It doesn't say that under democracy always we cannot predict that that majority decision is correct. Always our experience is most of the time the majority decision is wrong. So in a situation like that, parties like us always try to represent on the side of people and represent their rights and fighting for their rights, fighting for oppressed. So that is our...
And what is your gauging of the public mood now? Are they in a mood to elect a few members even from your party?
That may be, so we cannot interfere with the people's mandate.
Yeah, but what about your own?
Now, for example, now since you are pointed out IUSF, now there are no members of IUSF in the parliament, in the Pradesh Sabha. But as far as the educational rights of the people are concerned, always they got victories for the people. Always they defeated policies for privatizing education. So that has no any nexus with how many members in the parliament or Pradesh Sabha. So we are also like that. So whether if our members are there in the parliament or Pradesh Sabha, that is good. Then we can actually using these platforms enhance our fight. But we are not depending on that.
In the local government elections, how many candidates will you be fielding across?
Actually, we have given nomination for around 150 councils.
Right. Okay. So quite intense then.
Yes.
And how's it been? Has it been a bit disappointing when you find that the government seems to be changing their mind the whole time about having elections?
Actually, now throughout the position that we have taken up, we have to build a power beyond the parliament, power beyond this institution. This actually we know this participatory, that this representative election democracy is a mockery now.
Yeah.
All what we have to build is participatory democracy. That is our demand. So participatory democracy means the people who are working, the working class, should have a right to interfere with decision making process. Now farmer doesn't have power to interfere with or take in part the decision making of the policies regarding the agriculture. The estate workers doesn't have that right. Now they have completed 200 years, the estate workers. But throughout they were not heard and they have not been given opportunity to participate decision making process. So what we are saying, we have to build participatory democracy instead of this so-called representative democracy. So we are fighting for that.
And are you hopeful that you'll change the mindset of the people? And
of course, the best example is the recent Aragale.
Right.
That's directly it's participatory democracy.
And Here we go. There's a question here. How exactly does the central bank, let's have a go. How exactly does the IMF influence the central bank through the provisions of the new central bank independent bill? Won't the bill actually make it more difficult since IMF influence is directed at governments and not central banks? Or do we take the position that no good can come from the IMF?
Yeah, actually, the objective of the main objective of the amendment that the governor and the officials of the central bank has full power to take decisions without hearing the state or the treasury of the government.
Yeah.
So that is the main objective. So in other words, now we know there might be certain the chain of agreements with IMF, as the central bank governor, I think one day before he made that he gave an interview regarding that.
Yeah.
So there will be a chain of agreements with IMF.
Right.
So these agreements are actually, it's very clear, it's come up with certain conditions. These conditions, we have previous experience in Greece and other various other countries.
Yeah.
So all these, the main objective is to somehow restrain welfare systems which are established in this country and impose more laws. So these are, and privatizations. So these are the main conditions of the IMF. To implement that, I think they want pro-IMF governor and central bank, and actually they believe if government, one day if the government will be changed, the current situation also might be changed with that. So they need some concrete legislation to prevent government from interfering with decisions of IMF and central bank.
And there is there evidence of government interfering in that?
Sorry?
Is there evidence of governments interfering in decisions that the IMF wants?
Yeah, of course. Now we know that regarding recent impose of taxes, it is very clear now, without hearing the people, without hearing the affected segments of the society, they suddenly impose these taxations. So we know how people are suffering due to that. So directly, these are in line with IMF conditions.
Excellent. Do you, as a citizen, forget your party, as a citizen Bopage, are you confident that we will have local government elections or not?
Definitely we should have that.
We should, but will we?
Sorry?
Will we? Will the government pull some other rabbit out of their hat and say, well, we can't have it because the delimitation process or because something else?
Exactly.
What do you think?
I don't believe the Ranil Wickremesinghe and their gang will allow to have the election even in the month of April. They will make their best attempt to somehow postpone it, and actually they hate the mandate of the people at this juncture, because Ranil Wickremesinghe is always now in the revenge of people, because throughout his history people defeated him from most the elections.
He's been rejected. He's a rejected leader.
Yes. Now suddenly somehow we got the power. Now he is trying to.
But it shows how very diverse Sri Lanka is. You know, we 2 hours out of Colombo and you can be in the hill country.
Yes.
And it's a different weather altogether.
Exactly.
So Sri Lanka, that politics is also the same. Nuwan Bopage, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. That's the way it was on Newsline Live today. Take care and have a good weekend, and enjoy the big game, the big match tomorrow, because who knows, there might be a result finally. Take care, have a great evening ahead, as much as you can, and God bless you all.